Hey, everybody. Thanks again for dropping by the old Untitled and now Titled podcast about hockey with me and my friend Jeff Sharples. It's week number 2. Let's get started. All right. Week number 2. The podcast continues. Jeff Sharples and Ian Bagg hanging out via the internet. And this time, we're both plugged right into the wall, so it seems to be moving quite well. Man, what a week, Jeff. Big trade there. Big trade with Winnipeg and Columbus, and a lot of people talking about it. I don't know how do you pick who wins? You can't really pick who wins right now, can you?
I don't. Yeah, I think. I mean, right off the top, I think you just say, well, it's a win for both, and you don't get that very often in anything. But Dubois is going to come into Winnipeg where it's tough to get players. He is ready to go, and Laine and Roslovic didn't want to be in Winnipeg, and so they get moved on to Columbus. So, that's a win for them.
Right.
The nice thing I think about what's going to happen in Winnipeg is Scheifele is their number one guy. He's a superstar player in the league. Now he's going to get pushed from Dubois. It's going to make them both better, gives Winnipeg a great top 6. And then when you look at it from the Columbus side, they had to do something with what was going on with Tortorella and Dubois. So they get Laine, who was drafted one player in front of Dubois a couple of years ago. And they get Roslovic, who was another first rounder for Winnipeg in 2015, who I think has a lot of upside. So early on, win-win.
To me, I think both teams win because you've got trouble in Columbus, right, with what's going on. Tortorella's losing his mind. So as the coach is causing most of the trouble. You see the player doesn't want to be there. The coach is losing his mind because the player doesn't want to be there. The character becomes bigger than life in the media. And then you go to Winnipeg, it's kind of brewing underneath. He's leaving. Remember, they said they want to get rid of him. They were just going to ride him out until the end, right? Is what they were planning on doing to see what they could get for him. I don't think they ever thought they could get this good of a trade for him. Do you think?
Well, they say making trades like this is very difficult. And of course, when you look at big splashes in the NHL over the last few years, you're thinking of teams like Vegas is one of them. Montreal has kind of dipped in there and created a bit of a splash in the last year or so as well. So, yeah, it's really interesting. They get Dubois. It's funny. They say that he's on a bridge deal, 2-year deal at an affordable $5 million a year. But so they got him for this year and next year. So, and his dad is part of the Winnipeg organization. He's down in the American League with the Moose. So, you give up a guy that's all he's done since he's come in the league is score in Laine. But anybody that watched Dubois in the bubble last year in Toronto, I think that he helps them get back closer to the kind of identity they had a couple of years ago when they ended up in the conference finals with Vegas. Mm-hmm. And I think that bodes well.
I think is what you're right as well. I shouldn't be agreeing with you because that's not how programs work. I should be no, it's so stupid for them. But I think Dubois going to Winnipeg makes them a better team. I think there's a chance of Laine going to, and the other guy, Roslovic, going to Columbus makes them a better team. But if you still have the same kind of coach in Tortorella, who everybody loves afterwards, Laine was kind of upset that his coach was putting him on the mat and calling him to, back check. I can't see Tortorella letting him get away with that. Do you?
No, this is going to be interesting. And also it's going to be interesting in Columbus to see who the centerman's going to be, who's going to get him the puck. I mean, I think he goes to the one time on his off wing, kind of like Ovi does in Washington when he gets to Columbus. And they do what, Washington does and say, we're going to put Ovi there. We're going to put Laine over there. You guys see if you can stop him. This might get Max Domi going. Max Domi has shown spurts. He was the best player in the World Junior a few years ago. He's come in the league. He's had his moments. This might be him being a left-handed shot center and Laine being a right-handed shot. He's able to get the puck to him on his forehand. That might be a real big we'll have to keep an eye on it, but that could be a big piece of the puzzle for Columbus. If they can get Domi going, Line going, and then Roslovic, see if they can grow his game a little bit too. So with Torts, you're right, though. You don't know, how he's going to react, but it's not going to be well if he doesn't feel that you're putting the effort in.
I'm confused a little bit by it. Tortorella is, and I'm going back to Babcock a year ago when people were losing their mind. He wasn't treating players right, and people, said there's a change coming, in the way coaches will be. I feel that Tortorella is being the same as Babcock right now. Like, I don't know the ins and outs, but it feels, as an outside person, it feels like, well, why isn't Tortorella being vilified as much as Babcock was? But is it because Babcock was fired, or and because Tortorella's still in the league, and if he gets fired, do they then vilify him? How does it work? I don't understand what's going on right now.
Yeah, that's a great question, and I think maybe you could look and just look at the markets. Well, I'm good at long answers, so we'll try and tie this one together. But I think if you look at Toronto, I mean, they are eat and sleep hockey up there. There's a ton of press following the team. You and I have talked about this before, where these teams fit in. In Columbus, they fall behind Ohio State University and some of the other college stuff out there. So, Torts might be able to get away with a little bit more, boisterous style. I mean, if people remember him back in Vancouver, it was push-pull every day, right? And Babcock, you're asking, well, there's one standard here. It seems like there's another standard there. I think what you had there is two kind of more old-school coaches. Torts is obviously a little bit more willing to say what he feels in the media. And we'll have to see how this goes. But watching an old school coach with these new school players, and these guys are totally different than they were 10 or 15 years ago, it's going to be really interesting, because I think, for him to be successful, and Babcock as well, if he comes back, which I'm sure he will, you have to take a step towards connecting with the players, kind of like a Barry Trotz has. Barry Trotz is old school, but man, does he ever connect with his players, and he gets the most out of them.
Right.
So we'll see.
Never forget, never confuse your Torts with your Trots. They're very different. They're very, very different. I have actually, the interview that I seen with Pierre-Luc Dubois, very impressive for a 22-year-old. At the end of the day, everybody forgets this is a 22-year-old guy that's turning into a man. And you can go off the rails. You can go off the rails. How do you think he's dealt with it? Because I think he's the one that's had all the pressure on him, as Line hasn't had the pressure on him. I think he's being put more as a villain,
Yeah, I think it's, that could speak to the way the organizations, specifically in this case, the coach, dealt with it. Paul Maurice, if anybody gets a chance, he got interviewed the other night in the second half of the Hockey Night in Canada game. I'm sure you could Google it, with Scott Oak. From CBC, or I guess Rogers Sportsnet now, but Paul Maurice, the Winnipeg coach, just did a fantastic interview with Scott Oak. And if you want to see the comparison between these two coaches, get some clips from Torts, and it's right out there. Torts is always right in your face, and it likes to direct it the way he likes to direct it. Right. And then you watch a guy like Paul Maurice and the interview he gave, and I think you can kind of see where there might be a little bit of a difference. But Dubois, he did a great job handling. I mean, he had a lengthy interview, and he did a really good job. And you're right, he's only 22. He makes a lot of money. He's got a lot of pressure on him. But, I think he will look back on this, and it will help him grow as a player. And in Winnipeg, they're not gonna be in his ear. They're just gonna let him play there, and I think he'll do really well.
I put everything back to being a Vancouver Canucks fan. You really can't put pressure on a young guy, because if you take a look, all that pressure that was on Cam Neely, and then when he went to Boston, he matured a bit and became that workhorse and huge hero that Vancouver could have had, but they gave up on a kid. And I think you got to be careful with that kind of thing. It's all very. And the best part about it is the biggest news coming out of two of the smallest markets. So that's been the great part about it. It helps hockey in so many ways. So.
Yeah, and I think part of that is the salary cap. Back years ago, someone like maybe, when Detroit was on their run,
right.
Someone like Detroit maybe picked off Dubois.
Right.
They had a blank check they could write anytime.
They would have taken both. They would have taken Laine and Dubois. They would have taken them both on their team back then when they had that blank check thing going on. It's great.
Mm-hmm.
I thought Winnipeg. I think Winnipeg and Columbus had a pretty good week. With everything that was going on, I thought they did very well. Who are your most impressive teams this week, and who are your least impressive teams this week?
Okay, well, I'll run them off, and then you can tell me I'm wrong.
Wrong.
The first one is, I think this one's pretty self-evident. I think most people would probably agree with me on this one. Montreal is undefeated so far, and if you watch them kind of dismantle Vancouver in the last, they played 3 games there. That was impressive. They built that team to compete against these big, strong teams in the East, and they've done a great job. My second one is Pittsburgh. They started 0-2, they're now 4-2. Right. And what might have turned their season around is they were down 5-on-3, and Washington was giving it to them pretty good. And they scored a shorthanded goal down 5v3, came back and beat Washington in that game. That helped springboard them. So they're another team. My third team is going to be Winnipeg. And the reason I'm going to pick Winnipeg is for a lot of the reasons we just talked about is it's been kind of a bit of a circus up there as far as, Roslovic was holding out, Laine didn't want to be there, and then Chevy, the GM, was able to pull the big trade off. They lost a heartbreaker last night to Edmonton. We're taping this on a Monday, but I really like what Winnipeg's done, and they're a little bit shorthanded on D, or have been, so they've got a lot out. And the 3 least impressive, we'll just start with Vancouver.
Vancouver, horrible.
Man, oh man, yeah, that's been rough to watch, especially on a team that looked so good just a few months ago. So they're going to have to get the ship righted there. The other one that I'm disappointed in right now, or at least one of them, is New York, the Rangers. Kreider's got 1 point. Zibanejad's got 2 points. Those guys are high-end players. Zibanejad's one of my favorite guys in the league to watch. Mm-hmm. New York's not quite there yet, and they can't afford to kind of scuffle with all those powerful teams. And then the third one, and people might say, well, this is obvious, but my third one's Detroit. And the reason I say Detroit is I watched them multiple times last week. They were 2-2, but they were battling. They were coming back. They were playing. They were hard to play against. And they went into Chicago this weekend and really, really, against a team that was just reeling, just did not get any kind of momentum going at all. And they lost, decidedly in those 2. So there's my 6.
I agree with you on Montreal. Montreal is just fun to watch. It's very fast. I thought it was great that Mr. Allen got his first win too. I think their goaltending is improved immensely from last year, and they look more calm with Allen in the net rather than Corey Price. Corey Price seems a little bit like I don't know, a kid with ADD kind of bouncing all over the place if you look at him, whereas Allen looks a little bit more confident to me. Mm-hmm. I think one of my other ones has been the LA Kings. They shouldn't. I guess they're taking everybody to the limit, and they've won a couple games. And who knew whether they'd even do that before the season started? And my third one is always the Vegas Golden Knights, just continuing on kind of where they were last year. I think they're just impressive, just sneaking underneath and just walking through. And Pietrangelo, whatever you want to call him, just adding to that team in a crazy way. So let's see what they do. Let's see who they get rid of. They're going to get rid of a couple players, so I want to see who they get rid of. And then disappointment, Vancouver. I just don't know if Vancouver is a disappointment or an overreach out of control last season during the bubble. Like, I don't know which it is. Mm-hmm. I don't know if they were just they were just so exciting, and they were playing above their heads, and now they're back to earth where they should be. I don't know. And I haven't figured out the goaltending thing, how they go back and forth yet. I think some of these goaltenders need to play a couple games. Do you agree with me? It feels like they're not getting any rhythm.
I do, but the problem in Vancouver isn't so much their goaltending, and both of them. I mean, Holtby to me hasn't been too bad. Demko's been, he's not all world like he was in the bubble in Edmonton, but their problem in Vancouver isn't their goaltending. And maybe they play one guy, but you're seeing plays like you're seeing 2-0 breakaways from the far blue line. You're seeing one play you had. Myers and Hughes were together, and those are two of their heavy lifters. I know Hughes is just in his second year, but the kid is an amazing player. He was amazing, but he reminds me offensive zone.
He seems to be playing like his brother was playing last year. I don't know. Nobody's really kind of mentioned that. His brother struggled last year, and I feel like he's struggling this year. It's so and his brother's doing great this year. So I don't know what's going on there, but I think there's a lot of trouble in Vancouver. I think Petey, as they like to call him, has got something on his mind, and he takes it onto the ice with him. You can tell it's not just hockey when he's on the ice. It's a lot going on there. I don't know what pressure he's putting on himself, but it doesn't seem like the game's fun for him. And when there are certain players that you can tell they're a different player when the game seems fun. So I feel like St. Louis is another team that's kind of struggling the same way. St. Louis doesn't seem like, I don't know if they're struggling like Vancouver is, but it's not right there. They're in the waves, and the seats are. You're on a cruise ship, and the table's going from one side to the other side, like back and forth. It doesn't. It's just like yeah. So I don't know. And then who else? Who else was very disappointing for me? I guess the Rangers as well. But the Rangers are disappointing because I thought Lafreniere was going to change that a little bit more. But I also think it goes back to goaltending as well. I think Hank being there last year, just that voice of reason changes things when there's a confidence, So I don't know if they can be. And I want to give a shout out to Toronto, who I don't like giving shouts out to, but Jack Campbell just played a great game. Jack Campbell had a great week this week, and he's like, yeah. I don't know. Was there any play? That's my buddy. Yeah, I gotta throw out to him. Yeah, he's a good kid. Comes out and sees the shows, finds me funny. Yep. Therefore, he's a great player.
That's right.
Any players that really stuck out to you this week?
I guess. We kind of touched on, some of the stuff that Vancouver's doing. So on the kind of downside, some of the Canucks and some of the decisions they're making are not great. On the upside, watching with Vegas, you talked about them, and I looked at Vegas as well. I mean, expectation is amazing there, but Shea Theodore, just top player. He's a lot of fun to watch and really growing into his game. And then, I watched Boston the other day, and you got Bergeron just still doing his thing with Marchand. Right. And there's a couple guys that just had a really good weekend. So those are kind of some really good guys to watch. And then there's a young rookie that came over 97. I can't even say his name, but with Minnie. And of course, Minnie's a team that could have snuck into having a good week too. I mean, they're 4-2 as well. So
they were, and then they lost. Then they lost to San Jose, no, right? So then you got to go back to.
Yeah. So but if I was going to pick one guy, I watching Theodore play. I've seen him play a lot now, and I never understood why Anaheim exposed him. And of course, the first thing Vegas did was take him in the expansion draft. But he's a superstar, and you'll see he'll be playing for Team Canada at the next time they lace him up for the Olympics. There's no question.
That's great. Oh my God, they're picking out Olympic players for next year. Hey, speaking of Olympics, just one. That's all we need to send as a Canadian team. We just need one player and a coach. Some of the buildings had fans. Speaking of Olympics and fans, and some of the buildings had fans. And funny enough, the two buildings that had fans were Miami, right? Florida had fans, and so did Arizona, and it didn't seem to give them an advantage at all. What do you think of them having? Like, is it cheating by some teams being able to have fans and players? Sorry, I'm just stumbling all over this one. Is it cheating being able to have fans at some of the games for the home team?
Well, they got to try and make some revenue somewhere. And, you look at what happened in Arizona this weekend. Vegas went down there. Well, Vegas, all of a sudden, I mean, that's only 4.5, 5 hour drive from Vegas, and there's lots of flights. So it's easy to get there. But, Vegas, I would say, I think they capped it at 2,800. And I was saying, to you earlier, I think 2,600 or 2,700 of them were Vegas fans. So
right.
It worked in reverse there. And of course, Florida always and Arizona are two cities that always have a huge influx of the visiting team's fans.
Right.
So, I don't know. I mean, I think all the players are probably happy to play in front of fans again. But if you're the home team and the visiting team's fans are kind of making it feel like you're playing a road game, that's probably got to suck, right?
It's got to suck, yeah. But at the same time,
a lot of fun.
At the same time, it's Arizona and Florida, and 2,700 fans is actually a sellout in both of those, usually in a building. That during a regular season, it's funny that the places that struggle to have fans come to the games are the first ones to have. We got to get fans back. They're knocking at the door. No, Miami and Arizona, they're not knocking at your door. They're wondering what that building in the middle of nowhere is what's going on there. My God.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. Both those cities those teams have buildings in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
And I mean, we've talked about this before. I think it makes a huge difference on where the building is.
We've talked about this is only our second episode. We haven't talked on here, but I will bring it up right now. I absolutely think that the building has to be downtown if they really want the support. These guys that put their buildings, so the parking's okay, but there's lots of parking out there, but nobody wants to drive 40 miles out of town. They want to have some beers and get on a subway train, and just that you gotta. It's the old location thing. I think you just can't put it in a cheap area. You gotta spend money to make money. Very disappointing. My goodness. Anyways, we got a question coming in. We got a question coming in. We want to thank everybody that watched our first unnamed episode of Jeff and I talking. We actually have a name now. We have a name, and we're going to announce it right now. The name of this show is now called Orange Slices with Jeff and Ian. So everybody has orange slices in between periods. So we've named it Orange Slices with Jeff and Ian. So we'll be on iTunes and all the podcasts providers soon. For now, you can just get us on Facebook and YouTube. Facebook and YouTube. Check us out there. Send messages if you have questions, like our first question came in. Send it to Ian at ianbagg.com, and we'll answer your question. We want to just send a couple shout outs. We got some nice people saying things. Jeremy Meek said a nice story about Jeff. And then Sean Vanderflute, another nice story about Jeff. And then Ikai Jokasalo. We had a listener all the way from Finland. He's like, talk more about the Finnish players. And I think we did. We talked about Lani getting traded. So we did pretty good this weekend. And then also from our hometown, Darcy Mallet.
Darcy.
Yeah, was he older? Is he older than you, Jeff? Is he older than you?
I think we're pretty close in age. I know that, but it was good to see him.
Did he go off and play hockey? Did he go off?
The Mallets were great hockey players. Yeah. Good hockey players. Yeah. Darcy, solid. Left-handed winger, I think, if I remember, played a little bit of D in his day too, if I can recall. Smart player.
I remember the name Mallet. Did they own the Ritchie Rentals or something like that? Something Rentals, a place, and Ritchie Brothers Rentals.
That's Doug Ritchie.
Oh, that was the Ritchies. I got obviously by the last.
You're close. Only a couple letters off.
Oh my God, I know it. Anyways, our first question coming in from Trent Franson. He's an architect in Edmonton, Alberta. He builds schools up there, and he loves hockey. And he wanted to send out a question. He said, "Does Doug Benning's job depend on the outcome of the next 3 Vancouver Canuck games? I'm going to let you answer this, Jeff. Jim, what I call him, Doug Benning?
Doug and Jim.
God.
It's amazing.
I'm a reporter. I know everybody's name, Doug Benning. I was just going to call him Benning too, and then I just threw a name out there for no apparent reason.
I think everybody up in Canada knows exactly who you were talking about there.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Doug Benning's the nicest thing he's ever been called in Vancouver. I'm pretty sure they call him Dick Benning quite a bit. So.
Yeah, they've lit up the sports talk up there for sure. I'm guessing, but he just got extended.
Right.
I believe this summer, and so he just signed an extension. The guy that's on the last year of his contract, who I really like, and I think he's a great coach. I love the way he tries to get them to play, is Travis Green. I would be very disappointed if they made a move with the coaching staff. We'll see what the owner does. If he likes to be a little bit hands-on, that could be where he wants to put some pressure on Jim Benning, the GM. The thing in Vancouver is you heard Brian Burke talk about it the other night on to the point they're he calls them top heavy. So, at the top end of their lineup, they got a lot of skill and they got some really good players. But if those guys aren't going, they don't have the depth that maybe some of the other teams do. Plus, they lost Markstrom and Tanev, and that's huge. And Edler's another year older, maybe slow down just a step. And they say you have an off start to the year by Myers, who I actually liked Myers' game last. I just didn't like some of his decisions, but he was trying to get things going for them. So, he's a big guy trying to play heavy. Quinn Hughes, they got to start thinking defense first. That's the problem right now in Vancouver. So, yeah, I mean, in a Canadian market or any market where you're expected to win and you're off to a start like they are, the GM and the coaching staff's going to come under some pressure. But I just think it's cutting down on the mental mistakes. Man, it's tough to watch.
So you think it's fine? You think he's got more than 3 games before he's going to be before it affects him as a job?
Well, I don't. You know what? It's so hard to tell in sports these days. I mean, right. I mean, I'm the first to say I never thought Gretzky get traded, and right. Thanks to Gretzky, the league is just that trade. All these teams flourished, and so right. I'm going to just say that I'd like to see them leave it. I can see where this compressed season is going to put a little bit of strain on things, but Vancouver is trying to build for the long haul, and I think they could use some guys, maybe a little bit more grease in their lineup, or the guys that are supposed to be a little bit grittier. They need a little bit more out of them. But right now they have Pettersson, who's a superstar. He's not on top of his game, and Quinn Hughes, who's the toughest place to play in the league, is an NHL defenseman. And he's not the biggest guy. They got to be patient. And right. They have the players, and maybe just a couple of the guys they fill in around them, is maybe what they need to go and look for. Maybe just a couple character guys. They lost some really good people in Tanev and Markstrom. Levo was, from all accounts, a good guy. So you don't want to get too panicky, but yeah, they got to get going in Vancouver. Yeah. They put Ottawa 3 times this week.
So they gotta win at least one of those. I'm with you. I don't think it affects him. I think with all the mistakes he's made throughout the years, and Eriksson sitting there with all that money, if you didn't fire him over that at the beginning of this season, where it's a shortened season, you're not expected to win the Stanley Cup. Maybe you're expected to do as well as you did last year, but it is long term. It's not this year that you're really putting all the money on. You're not betting all the money on this. And I also really think at the end of the day, when you walked away from 4 players, you didn't expect them all to go to one team. So that really changes everything when you lose that many players and they all end up in Calgary. It's very confusing. Although I guess that's what happened in Tampa, so we should have recognized that. For the Tampa Buccaneers, we should have known what was going on. But who knows?
Well, Toffoli in Montreal,
right?
They
that was another one. Oh, yeah. They
didn't have the room to sign him, or they didn't, whatever it was. And you got to remember, they're still carrying cap money from Roberto Luongo. Hasn't been in Vancouver for years. Right. Yeah. So, Louis Eriksson, paying him $6 million a year, and I know that's a lightning rod for a lot of people up there, but without going overboard on the Canucks, I would put him in the lineup. He's a veteran guy. See if he can help settle some of your young guys down. He's a Swede. Pettersson's a Swede. You know what? There might just be some connection there, and help the young fella.
And also let them know. Let's show them what we'll do with you. If you don't pick up, we'll just put you on the bench and leave you there. So we got to get joined. We like to drop in once a week, give everybody a little bit of a talk about hockey. We come from the North, and we talk about the North, and we're always going to end up on Vancouver, but we talk about the whole league. It's just great to see it all back and going, and a lot of fun. Thanks, Jeff, and welcome to Orange Slices with Jeff and Ian.
Yeah, Orange Slices. I like it.
Orange Slices. All right, we'll see you next week.
See you, Mr. Bagg.
Bye. Hope you had fun, my friends. If you have any questions that you'd like to answer, please send to ian@ianbagg.com, and if we like them, we'll put them on the air and ask that question. Make sure you like, rate, and review on YouTube and Facebook. You can just share it with your friends, and we'll be out on iTunes soon. So thanks, guys. I hope your team does well. And what can I say? Hockey's the best sport in the world. Take care. Goodbye.